everyone. So today in this session, we are going to learn about array. What is array? How do we use it? What is the purpose of array? Why do we need it? And how do we use it in Game Lab? Everything we are going to learn today in this session. So let's get started. Okay, so what is an array? An array is nothing but it is a collection of similar type of data. It is a list of similar type of data. Here it is very important to understand that it is similar type of data. So for example, if you want to record birth date of all of your friends, so maybe you can say, okay, it is very simple. I will declare a variable and assign my birth date value to it. Okay, fine. If you have one friend, two friend or three friend, it is okay. You will declare one, two or three variables and it will do the needful. But imagine if you have got 100 friends. So do you think that you will declare 100 variables? Is it a good idea? No, it is not a good idea to declare 100 variables, right? So you will have to keep on adding the variables to add on their birth dates or phone numbers, etc. You need to save phone number of all your friends. You are creating a program where you want to save the phone number of all your friends. So what you will do, you will create a variable phone number. Okay, yes, you can always create a variable phone number and store it. If you have one or two friends, that is perfectly fine. But if you have 100 friends or 50 friends, what you will do? Are you supposed to create 100 variables and assign them values? No, it is not going to be a good idea, right? So here array comes in handy. What we can do, just declare one variable and keep adding more values to it. We will have to be very careful that the values has to be of the same type. Let's see what I am talking about. Say, for example, if you have these phone numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, please pardon the mistake here. So it is like 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and you want to store it. If it is 4, 5, it is perfectly fine. But if you want to store them, store hundreds of phone number, the better idea is using an array. Array is a collection where you can store similar type of data and you can keep adding the data as well. Okay, so what is the best way? The best way is declare an array and keep editing the items in it. So how do we declare an array in Game Lab? To declare an array in Game Lab, square brackets comes in picture. Okay, so var variable name equal to square bracket and then semicolon. This is how we declare a variable array in Game Lab. So this is about the declaration. We have declared an array, but how does it look like? How does it look like inside the memory? How many values it can store? And how do I actually add value to it? Let's see it now. So this is how an array inside the memory looks like. An array has got two things, index and value. Okay, so first value that you will be adding will be stored at 0th index. Second value will be stored at first index, second, third, fourth, fifth, and so on. So you will have to understand that array index always starts from 0, not from 1. The first value that you added to array could be accessed using the index 0, not 1. Okay, so be very careful about it. Indexing in array starts from 0, not from 1. This is how an array looks like. Here, for the example purpose, we have taken it from 0 to 14, but it could vary. As you keep on adding the values, the array can extend itself. So here, we have index and value. So next question which arises, okay, very good. We have declared an array, but how do we add an item to an array? So this is how we have declared array. How do we add it? Say for example, if I want to add a phone number at 0th index, this is how we can do it. Phone num is the name of the same variable, this variable, which we have declared as an array. Now position is accessed using the index. How do we declare? How do we provide the index? Index is always provided in the square brackets like this. Index is provided in the square brackets, and it is a rule to start adding the elements in array from 0th index always. Okay, so we start from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It is not a good idea to add an index, say for example, to add a value at 100th index, because in this case, the memory will be occupied from 0 to 99, which is blank and which is of no use. It is not a good practice at all. So we should always keep on adding the elements from 0th index and then keep adding the index. Okay, so we have first value is stored at 0th index, second value will be stored at first index, third value will be stored at second index, and so on. And you can keep on adding the values to it. Now the next question which arises is, how do you access an element in an array? Same way, the way you have added it, you added via index, you can access it also via indexing. Okay, so in this case, phone number 2, when you say get me phone number 2, it will give you the value. Indexing is very important in array. Remember, it starts from 0. It always starts from 0. And how do we iterate through items in array? To iterate through an items in array, we use for loop. Okay, so don't worry. Whatever lecture you just heard now, we are going to experiment this in Game Lab right away. So we are going to experiment in Game Lab right away. So let's get started. So consider this scenario where you want to create a swarm of bees. So many bees, 50, 100, 200. So what do you do in this case? Are you supposed to create 100 or 50 or 200 variables? Declare each and every variable, create a sprite? Seems a little, difficult to achieve. So for this purpose, what we will do, we will use array. We can easily use array because we are going to use the sprite of the same type, which is B. Animation is also same. So we can surely use array for this. Now let's see how do we use array. To understand, let's create a new project in Game Lab. So we have this new project in Game Lab. What we can do, first approach is, okay, let's create a variable as sprite. I can give it a name as B, and we know how do we create a sprite, probably at the 200 and 200 position, and I can give it an animation as well. But before that, I will have to pick the animation. So let me pick the animation. So B dot set animation V1. Okay. Don't forget draw sprites. This is how we can create one single bee. If it is only about one single bee, it is absolutely fine. But what do we want? We want to create a swarm of bees, so many bees. So what we will have to do? What we will do? We will create an array. Bees. We can name it as bees because it contains multiple bees. And this is how we declare it. Variable bees is equals to an array. It is an array. Now we will have to keep adding elements to it. How do we keep adding elements to it? We know that this is how we can add the elements. B0, something like create a sprite. It could be any position. So for now, I can put a random number between 100 to 200. This is the X position. And similarly, the Y position is also a random number between 100 to 200. So this is how I can create first B. I can also give it a animation. So this is how we are accessing it. Okay. So in this line number 8, we have actually created a B sprite. It is actually there inside an array at the 0th index. What we are doing in line number 9, we are accessing this particular variable and giving an animation to it. So this is how we can do. We can keep on doing like this. Say, for example, whatever you want, 0, 1, 2, how many bees you want. But this is also a very cumbersome technique, isn't it? This seems to be a very cumbersome technique. But do you see a pattern here? The entire code is same. And the only difference which we have is with indexing, which keeps on increasing by 1. So when I say it keeps on increasing by 1, that something strikes you. We want to repeat this loop and we have a pattern. Yes, we want to repeat this loop and we have a pattern. So we can use a for loop. As you know, either you can go to control and pick this for loop or you can type it also. So we are going to use for loop here. Variable I is equals to 0. This is how we initialize. Especially when we are using for loop for an array, we should always initialize it to 0. Why? Because my indexing always starts from 0. And say, for example, if I want 50 bees. I will say I is less than 50 because I know my loop will now run 50 times. I plus plus. It means my I will be increased by 1 every time. This is what I want because the indexing, this is how the indexing works. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So every time after this for loop is executed, the body of the for loop is executed. I want it to be executed. I want it to be incremented once again. So what I will have to do, I have this piece of code, which I was repeating again and again. I will simply put it inside my for loop. And because we know this for loop will repeat itself again and again. There is a video about for loop. I believe you have already covered this. You have already seen this. So you know what is for loop. If no, here is a link. You can watch it. Instead of 0, I will just replace here it with I. Why I? Because every time the value of I will change, it will increase by 1. And this is what we also want. Because we know that this is how the indexing works. It starts from 0 and it increases 1 by 1. So I don't think I need this all code now. We already have just these 2 lines of code and all the bees are created. So there is a mistake. It is bees, bees.i. Okay. So so let's run it and see. Okay, so you can see so many bees are created. I think we should scale it. So to scale it also, it is the same technique. B index dot scale is equals to whatever scaling we want. So I'm putting 0.3. Let's see how does it looks. Yeah, 0.3 looks good. But I have a question. Why this one is not scaled? Okay, because we are using it here. We actually don't need this also. Okay, so do you see we have actually created 50 Bs and how many lines of code we have written? Just these 3 lines of code or say, yeah, 5 lines of code, this for loop. So using for loops and array, we could create 50 Bs sprite together in one go. So using these 2 very important coding fundamentals, array and for loop, we could create number of bees together, number of bees sprite together. Isn't it amazing? So do try it out and let me know if you have any questions or any doubts. Let me know in comments. See you. Bye-bye.